better take another close look.
Hi everyone, this is Sanjana from Close Look, and I'm here with Edwin Chow, and he is from Brella Community Service Society, and we're super excited to have him here for Close Look because we are working on some projects to bridge the gap between seniors, youth, and their children. So we're really excited to take on this project. Could you start off by introducing yourself a little bit to our audience today?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Edwin. I'm from Brella Community Services Society, and I run the Senior Center Without Walls telephone program. Just kind of a quick note, some of you may know our organization previously as Seniors Come Share Society, and we had rebranded it back earlier in the year just to reflect our idea of becoming more of an umbrella, hence Brella organization, and more encompassing and inclusive organization that's kind of just reorienting what we're looking to build ourselves towards in the future. But yeah, still different name, same people, same programs.
Okay, perfect. Yes, everyone, please do check out their organization. And can you tell us a little bit about how you kind of started off and what made you want to join this organization?
Yeah, so personally, I have a Bachelor of Social Work from UBC.
Okay.
And so after that, and even during my schooling, the reason why I went into social work was actually because I wanted to work with seniors in some way. And it was just kind of at a point where I was looking at different options. Not only did I want to go to hospital, which I'm kind of glad it didn't because it was just before the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of glad I didn't. I mean, it's definitely important work, but I'm like, it's kind of nice that I didn't have to be there.
Yeah,
in a way. But also looking at ways that we can help reduce isolation in seniors, particularly for myself as well. I'm a second generation Canadian, but my parents are immigrants, and particularly my grandparents that have immigrated here as well. And you see this challenge in really many non-English speaking immigrant communities where the older generations come here, but they don't particularly adapt well to the community around them. They don't necessarily speak the same languages. They can't partake in as many of the public activities that are being made available, and it results in if the community around them is good, maybe they have services that have been created by the local community to serve the seniors, but if not, then oftentimes you'll find people that are stuck at home and they don't engage with their neighbors, they don't engage with the community or community centers that are around them because they don't understand the language and the people, and they just end up being stuck and isolated at home, and they age at home, but in a very solitary kind of way. Maybe it's just them and their spouse, but they don't have that community connection to support them, you know, if their children or their grandchildren or whoever aren't really available to be with them or to visit them as often, right?
Definitely. Yeah, because there can be that cultural barrier and that language barrier as well, and you just don't know really who to turn to, and like you don't really want to like bother or like you want like support, but you also like you can't always rely on maybe your family to always be there, and it is nice to connect with people like your own age, so it's definitely important. And how did you kind of connect with like this like organization, like in terms of like, because you seem very like passionate about like helping seniors, especially those I believe like who are facing like these cultural differences, right?
Yeah, well, actually, originally I was applying for a different position that was geared more towards kind of network structures navigation and like healthcare system navigation and such. But a different person got hired for that, but they took me on for a different project instead, where that was a older program that was called Peers Reaching Out, which was based as a peer-to-peer support program where we would train volunteers who were also seniors that would then have the skills to navigate healthcare systems or to you know, show people how to sign up and take Handy Dar, and giving them those skills, the basic building blocks and the steps to help empower another senior who is more isolated,
Oh, wow.
so that they get at least the basic skills to then start becoming more involved with the community around them, whether it's just taking them to the library and finding a group that went there that fit their needs, and then they become interested, and you show them, okay, well, we're going to take anti-dart there, and they go together with them a few times, and over the span about 8 to 13 weeks, you develop these basic skills with them, and it was all kind of peer to peer. That's why it's called peers reaching out. But that was concluded in the early spring of 2020.
Okay.
But that's also the time when I was brought onto this separate grant now, which you may know as the CISIP Network Project, which is a collaboration between 6 local organizations in Surrey, including the City of Surrey, PICS, FRAFCA, and Unity, formerly known as Semiahmoo House Foundation, and Sources Community Resources, and ourselves, Brella Community Services, formerly Seniors Comfortable Society. So the 6 of us had grouped together to basically work with this grant and pilot new programs that were designed to address things like social isolation and intercultural or multicultural and intergenerational connections. And that's kind of where I am now. And it was during that process that I then found and developed the idea of the Senior Center Without Walls into our local community, I suppose.
Oh, wow. Awesome. So you were the one that created that project to begin with?
I created the project, but the idea isn't mine. The Senior Center Without Walls model has actually been done for quite a long time in the United States. And then there's a number of much larger groups across the rest of Canada, like in Edmonton and in Winnipeg and in Ottawa, that actually have been running this type of program for 4, 6, even like 10 years. And they've kind of proven that there is success with it. They've proven that this model works. And so really I just took that idea and then implemented it locally.
Interesting. And how did you find the process of kind of implementing it in this organization?
It came at a really weird time because that was, it wasn't intentional, but just the way that planning and scheduling worked out. My program launched right at the beginning of the pandemic, in May of 2020. So that was just when everything got shut down. The city programs all closed down, senior centers closed, and basically there was a huge void of social programming for everyone in general, but also seniors specifically. And so it was actually, in a way, having the pandemic there helped propel the program forward even faster than I was anticipating, because there was this need for social interaction for seniors, and there was a need for it to be remote and not in person. Because there was no contact happening, right?
That's a good point,
The basics of the Senior Center Without Walls is designed primarily focusing around those who are homebound, who are isolated, who do not get out into the community, whether it because for their health reasons or they don't have the mode of transportation that you require, they don't have access to public transportation, or they're just not an outdoorsy type of person, or for whatever reason it's not easy for them to get to an in-person group activity. Then the Senior Center Without Walls is designed as simple and as low barrier as possible to reach them in their homes. And the way that we accomplish this is through basically teleconferencing. And that was actually an interesting conversation to have with a lot of people early on, because the most immediate thing people swapped to right when the pandemic hit was Zoom. Everyone jumped onto Zoom. And so that's what everyone in the community was hearing about. That's what all the seniors were hearing about, Zoom programs. And then I come in, I'm like, well, this is a telephone program. It's like, so it's not a computer. No, it's not. You don't need a computer. You don't need internet. If you have a phone or a landline or whatever, you could get on. And that I think was something that has never really been done in the Lower Mainland before.
Yeah.
In BC at all. I think it's something that it was kind of interesting because it's in a way a pretty analog way of doing these group sessions.
Yeah.
This was, how people did work meetings before internet existed and stuff like that. But then a lot of seniors at that point, I guess because Zoom was getting pushed so hard, that they were more confused about how I ran my program than how Zoom worked.
And it's so good that like you're not relying on Zoom too, because like the whole point of the service is to make it easy for seniors to connect, and why add in the difficulty of like technology, which is already a struggle to even like my generation as well. Like half of my friends don't even know how to use Zoom, so like I can see that struggle passing on.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it fits a good gap in the service, because there's a plenty amount of Zoom programming, and there is a substantial amount of seniors that are actually quite proficient at getting on Zoom, and they in some ways enjoy it more because to them having the visual aspect actually helps them a lot sometimes, especially if they have difficulties hearing, or they process things easier when they can see a demonstration or see a PowerPoint or something like that. Whereas I have had some challenges with my program where, some people their hearing might not be as good, or they find it a little more difficult to keep up with conversations without that visual aspect. But it fits kind of a need. If you like the Zoom stuff, we have Zoom stuff.
Okay.
If you don't use Zoom, if you don't like technology, if you don't like any of that stuff, then I have my telephone program.
Different programs.
Available. And it catches a different group of seniors that honestly might have been missed otherwise, because there weren't really these kind of like really basic offerings that could have been accessed easily just on the telephone.
Yeah, definitely. And like, what have you kind of noticed in terms of like, with your research, obviously, like, because you mentioned there were like different cases of this in the States as well, but also just from your own experiences by having this program, what are like some things you've noticed with the seniors?
I mean, everyone's just craving for any type of social interaction, any type of kind of mental stimulation. I think that was really the big thing, especially during the pandemic, and even now still, if they don't really get out too much, that no matter how old you get or where you are in life, you're always wanting to learn something new. You're always interested in the miscellaneous stuff, and like you and I, we might have easy access to that. You just you can go on YouTube or Google or whatever, and you can find tons of stuff on like the random things that you might learn about. Like you don't even care about it, but now here's a video on how someone makes ancient pottery, and you're like, wow, that's interesting.
Now I'm making pottery.
But it's like in one ear out the other, but it's interesting. It keeps you engaged.
Definitely.
But if they don't really access that kind of stuff, or don't have access to, or even if they do, a lot of I was actually quite surprised when I first started it, the number of older adults that do access technology, right? Because I think there is a general misconception about seniors don't use technology, or seniors, if they use technology, it's analog, right? Which is quite untrue. A lot of them had worked during a time period when technology got introduced. Some of them might have been quite proficient in using their computers and stuff at work still, but then never really in the way that we do now, in an entertainment type of way.
Of course.
So they use email, they use Zoom and stuff like that, but things like navigating Google searches or YouTube searches and stuff like that, it's a bit more uncommon for them. But then having this telephone program is kind of a way where they can get that type of fun, miscellaneous social, you do something fun, it's something new, it's something that you hadn't heard about before or learned before, but it's also not really something you take too seriously, because it just kind of gives you a break in your day and something
exactly, right? Everyone needs a routine change. And like, what are some, like, so how long do these calls usually go on for, and like what kind of things go on in these calls? So
the programs are generally 30 to 40 minutes. Although some of them do go up to like an hour, sometimes
Okay.
even more than an hour, depending on how much they want to chat.
Yeah.
So I run programs Monday through Friday, usually twice, sometimes 3 times a day. Once in the
Okay.
morning, once in the afternoon, sometimes another one in the afternoon a bit later as well.
Yeah.
And we cover all sorts of topics from I have things that cover history, literature, poetry, gardening and cooking, radio, like voice and radio theater.
Yeah.
There's guest speakers that come on talking about health and wellness, like osteoporosis, arthritis, dentistry, dental health,
Yeah.
or like legal advice,
Oh,
or
wow.
things like advanced care planning, estate planning, will planning, alternative burial methods. Like it's like really like all sorts. Anyone that I can really kind of get a hold of, basically,
Yeah.
that's interested and available, like dietitians, etc., or even just kind of like performers.
Yeah, of course. You need
And
the performers.
so it's really kind of trying to catch as much of a broad interest as possible.
Yeah, definitely.
And the seniors then can just sign on for whichever ones they're interested in, and they join in and they listen into those. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. There's always something different going on.
Yeah, of course.
And always trying to bring something new each time I put out a new program schedule.
Yeah, that's exciting. And is it more like a drop-in kind of a thing, or is it like, do they have to pay for a certain amount of time?
So the way that seniors get onto the program is through contacting me directly. They find my program schedule either online, or it's referred to them by maybe a rec therapist or occupational therapist or friend or family. And then they will call me or send me an email, whichever one's more convenient for them, or their preferences.
Okay.
And then I will get them through the intake process registered, and we sign them up for the individual sessions that it's the topic that they're interested in.
Okay.
And so it keeps it simple, because the seniors only ever need to contact me through my office line directly. That's the only phone number they'll ever need.
Yeah.
And then anything else that happens, like before programs, I will call them and ask if they're available, check in if they're still going to join. And so I know when I do the setup dial out, do I call them or not? And when the dial out system calls them, they just need to pick up the phone. It tells them to press 1 on their dial pad, and it will just transfer them into the call, and that's it.
Okay.
Right? So it's really keeping it as simple as possible, and as accessible as possible. So there's not really too many confusions about how to get onto the program.
Okay. Oh, perfect. And what are like any like success stories that you've kind of heard, or like any conversations you've had with some of the seniors and just realized that this program's really working with the community?
Yeah, definitely. I was actually just dropping something off to one of the clients this morning. I was talking to her, and she had a cousin who she'd referred onto the program, and there is an art program that I did with the Surrey Art Gallery in partnership with them.
Okay.
And this their cousin is actually, they're quite an accomplished artist themselves. They do a lot of art, and they've taken art courses by professional artists and such, but the feedback back was still that they learn more, or they learned more in an hour with the amazing instructors that I have from the Surrey Art Gallery. That they've gotten more out of that experience over the telephone.
Oh, wow.
From that 1 hour session we have on a Monday morning, than they have from a whole series with a professional artist. I'm like, I mean, I'm not big into art.
That's awesome.
I appreciate it, but I'm not much. But like, if that's their takeaway, like, that's really impressive, considering it's something, in our, it's like, you're doing it remotely, you're doing art from home, and somehow it's still more rewarding than a professional class, and
Yeah.
and that's amazing. And let's see, I do a literature club program. It's like not really a
Okay.
traditional literature club program with the Surrey libraries,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a rotation of staff from the Surrey libraries that work with me, and they come on every week, and they pick something to read to the seniors that are on the call.
Okay.
And it's kind of like a story time. If you think back
Yeah.
to how library was in elementary school,
Yeah.
when everyone reaching, you'll sit there and listen and you
Yeah.
enjoy it.
Nostalgic moment.
That's kind of what it's like.
That's
And they
nice.
said the same thing too.
That's
I
adorable.
actually asked, interviewed some of them a while back, and they, there's a special feeling that they're being looked after, that they're being nurtured, that they're being, someone cares to plan something for
That's
them
sweet.
and to do something for them,
Yeah.
and they can just enjoy the process.
It's a nostalgic moment, right? for
Yeah,
them?
and it is.
Yeah.
It is. And in general, just like the opportunity to be able to easily hear other people, the opportunity to be able to easily share ideas with other people, and just to have access to an easy way that they can learn something new, right? An easy way that they can get this age relevant information, I guess you could call it. This type of information that is relevant to them, that they want to hear about, that they don't have to actually go that far out of their way to access, other than making sure they have time to be on the telephone. That's made a big difference for them. And especially I know during the pandemic, when people haven't been able to get out, or just there weren't services running in general, because a lot of my programs run on a scheduled basis. So some of them are weekly, recurring bi-weekly, and right during the pandemic, I know it made a huge difference to people that it put a schedule back in their day.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
Something to
everything
follow.
closed down, they didn't have things to go to anymore. So it's like, well, if you woke up, there wasn't really something to look forward to because it's just your day.
Yeah.
But then now, instead of just waking up and you have nothing, you wake up and hey, 10 o'clock, I'm gonna call, check in with them. 10:30, we have our morning program. If they're on the other one, then we got our 1:30 program too. They're going to connect with others, they're going to engage, and it breaks up a bit of the monotony of the day. And it helps them not kind of just be sitting at home doing nothing.
And they're like up to date with like the world and the trends that are going on around them too, right?
They stay up to date,
Very
they
easy.
chat, they talk about current stuff, and there's a feeling of they're contributing to a group,
definitely.
right? They're not just kind of sitting there holding back. They're able to speak, they're able to share and contribute and be a part of this process.
Yeah, and I think that's what we all want in the end, like to have a voice, right? To have a community. So that's very important. And I do have like some questions also about just the organization in general as well. So how has this what other like programs and services has this organization been promoting?
Yeah, so Brella Community Service Society actually does quite a wide variety of different programming. Primarily, we split our programs into 3 categories.
Okay.
One is the day programs, which is a contracted Fraser Health service where we are able to have 3 spaces right now, one in South Surrey, one in Guildford, and one in Newton, where older adults are able to come into that space for a few hours a day and receive some of the healthcare that they need, maybe a bath, and they also get a meal, and they get a bit of recreation, exercise, social activities, stimulation, and it gives an opportunity as well for any of their caregivers or family to get a couple hours for themselves as well during the day. We have clients that might be there once a week or twice a week sometimes, and it's a really great service. It is the referral stream's a little different though. You do have to be referred through the Fraser Health internal system. And the best way to get into that system, if you have or know anyone that wants to be a part of the day program, is to contact your local home health, Fraser Health Home Health, and ask them to come in and do an assessment and to see if you are eligible to be put into the waitlist stream for day program. But it's actually a really great experience for people. And then we have our second group of program, which is community programs, which my Senior Center Without Walls falls under. Like I kind of mentioned, we have a digital programs coordinator, another colleague of mine who runs that. So he does all the Zoom programming, all the virtual stuff. And then we have volunteer programs where anyone can come and volunteer for various things, including, we have things like a Tech Buddy program where you can come and help teach a senior how to use their phone, or how to make an email, how to go to get on Zoom.
Interesting.
Right? We have volunteers who are actually kind of like, we call them senior connectors, but they're basically kind of ambassadors for us out in the community. We station them out in community centers or libraries and such, and they are trained to be able to help other seniors answer their questions, to help them navigate systems, if they need help searching for a certain resource, they have been given the training and the tools to help them navigate that. So it's kind of like a peer-to-peer kind of thing.
Okay. And are these volunteers like assigned certain seniors to like support, or just like anyone in the community?
No, anyone can, if they're out there, like say for example, if maybe we have some people at the Guildford Library, the Cloverdale Library, or somewhere, and someone walks in, they can just go chat with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
We also have a variety of meal programs right now where we run a in-person luncheon. It's called the Lunch and Learn program, because usually there's either a performer or a guest speaker or someone. Right now we only have it at the Kent Street Center in White Rock, but we are in the talks with other organizations and other facilities to resume back in kind of more rec centers, like the Chuck Bailey rec and Cloverdale rec. It's just a work in progress, but we are looking at those. We also have a program called social prescribing, which is a little hard to put into a nutshell. It's quite a complex system, but the basic idea behind it is that we are a connection for the healthcare system and the client into other social supports.
Okay.
So the client is referred to my colleague by their physician or by a health professional with certain goals and certain things that they want to achieve, whether it be finding supports in some way or navigating a system in another way or such, or getting certain support set up for them. And so my colleague then works with the client to basically set goals, plan, run and achieve those goals, and it gets reported back to the doctor as well, so the doctor's kind of in the loop, and there's kind of like a collaborative process between that. Just trying to link kind of like healthcare system solutions to community-based solutions.
That's good.
For problems. And then finally we have dementia caregivers and family support services. So that is more geared towards people who are caregiving for another person, but whether it be a friend or family or someone with dementia or Alzheimer's. We run support groups. We have they run webinars. They do one-on-ones. They do a lot of work in the community as well, going out to see people where they are and where they need to be, helping them navigate the healthcare system, which can be very stressful when you're trying to do it on behalf of maybe your father, your spouse, or whoever. And then we also are starting up a friendly visiting program under the Better at Home services. Right, I need to touch on that too. We have specifically trained volunteers who are experienced or have been trained specifically to work with elders with dementia and Alzheimer's.
Okay.
And they do one-on-one visits and provide companionship and chat and such. And that is an extension of the Friendly Visiting program as part of the Better at Home programs, which we run for the communities of Cloverdale, South Surrey, White Rock.
Okay.
And we're also the central intake for all the referrals for all of Surrey, which we then spread out to the other groups that are running the program. But the Better at Home program is funded by United Way of Canada, and they run all sorts of things from helping set up like a grocery delivery system or like I said, friendly visiting, but in just more of a general aspect where there's a senior at home, they want someone to come visit them, they'll go visit once a week or twice a week and just be a friend.
Okay, that's
and there's also we've partnered and with another organization to run I think there's a transportation service towards medical appointments.
Yeah.
That is a big challenge sometimes for people to get to. And also there's some smaller services like light housekeeping, yard work, and a couple more that are not coming to mind right now. But so Better at Home covers all those kind of services that make it a little bit easier to kind of be at home and to for seniors to be able to age at home better.
That's really important because so many like seniors want to be in the presence of their family or want to be independent and stay at home.
Yeah.
So it seems like there's so many like bases kind of covered with all of these programs. So it's so easy for them to connect with the community and kind of network and reach out to people of their own age. So that's amazing. Yeah. And just like as we wrap up, I just have like some questions in general around like seniors and then just like how we as a society can kind of support them. So like after like working with this organization and on your own projects, like what are some things that you've kind of noticed that seniors kind of need from their children and their grandchildren?
I think that definitely some patience.
Yeah.
Lots of patience working with seniors because there's just things that we take for granted that are just like, oh yeah, it's second nature. You can like for example, my dad just got a new car, but then for me, I could jump right in and be like, yeah, this button, that button, yeah, I kind of know what it does.
Yeah.
But for him, he's looking, I have no idea what any of this is.
That's me though.
But then, but then you gotta work with them, you gotta have that patience because there's new things, but then there's also a lot of things that seniors are very knowledgeable about.
Yeah,
and I think that's something that's often overlooked because there's this general stigma around aging that the older you are, the less capable you are of doing things, and that's totally untrue. And there's just different ways that we need to approach things, and there's different mediums which do different generations work, but they have a ton of life experience and things that they've done and can share about and talk about, and it's about giving them a voice.
Yeah,
really,
definitely.
to be able to share their experiences, to be able to share their challenges and their problems too, and letting them be heard in kind of whether their wants or their needs, or just kind of being able to feel like that they're an included part of the community. And also just that, seniors are always looking for more to learn as well, right?
That's a very good point.
Just because they're older doesn't mean that they're not learning more, not wanting to learn more. Honestly, whenever I do a feedback program and ask them, well, is there, what's something new you want, like a topic that you want to hear about, or something that would help me plan future sessions? They're like, it doesn't matter as long as it's informative and I'm learning something.
Yeah, they want to stay engaged.
Yeah,
they want to be part of it.
They want to be engaged. They want to be a part of it. And they, yes, sometimes like some simple brain teasers and like just for fun kind of stuff. Yeah. That is good. You need some of that every once in a while. But they want to be continuously improving themselves as well. And that's just something you really got to keep in mind when you're planning your programming is, you don't necessarily want to treat them as if they weren't still very capable adults.
That's true.
For lack of better wording, treating them a bit like children sometimes.
I was just gonna say.
Which is, that is a very problematic approach in its own, where it's, I don't really know where it came from, but there is this general idea, you get older, you kind of start treating them like a bit like children again, and that's actually very insulting.
And very demeaning.
Yeah, and it's very demeaning because they have all these things that they can do and say and think about and talk about, and they're just as interested in their personal growth and their professional growth as much as you are.
Definitely.
Right?
So treating them like adults, because they are adults.
Respect them for who they are, respect them as adults, and that they're people that have just as much of an opinion and thoughts and ideas as you do, and they want to be able to share that and should be able to share that too, whether it potentially be in a different way.
Yeah.
Right. But that's on us to be able to provide as service providers and as program creators and program coordinators. It's on us to come up with ways to either make it easier for them to get that opportunity to share, or to reduce barriers towards them to participating in the community and with each other.
Definitely. And just like questions with the program, and like a lot of people are probably wanting to access like these kinds of support systems available. What are like maybe some common like hesitations or concerns that you've maybe heard from like seniors, just so that we can address it to the audience, and that way if they have any of these doubts, they're clarified so that they can use these programs?
I think the number one thing that I've come across is unfamiliarity.
Yeah.
That's usually the biggest challenge I find is, it's something that they're unfamiliar with, which then can become a stress to them in whatever way, whether it be, we want to send up friendly visiting, but that means you are having a complete stranger, which, has been arranged for by this organization. They've been screened and such, but you are having a stranger enter into your home, into your life that you're trying to connect with, right? That's not something easy to do, and that's not something everyone's interested in doing. Or even just the idea of, whether it be the switch to Zoom, right?
Yeah.
No, don't like it. It's frustrating. I don't understand how this computer works. It never works for me. It never does what I want it to do, right? So I'm just not going to do it. Or the same thing for my telephone program too. I've had some of them be like, I don't like this style. I don't like this system. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And a lot of times is that there's this discomfort with what is unfamiliar, and not having someone that they are a bit more familiar with to guide them through it is a big part, right? Being able to have the support of a friend or a family or someone you're close to that can help walk with you and guide them through this process really makes it a lot more likely for any older adult to at least try it the first time.
Exactly.
Right? Give it a shot the first time, but a lot of them don't get to that because they don't understand enough about it to take that first step to begin with. And sometimes it's just not knowing, right? They, depending on how active they are with technology and media, they may have more or less access to information that's relevant to them, programming that's happening around them. And if they just don't know, then they'll never access it. And then they just kind of don't engage with the community as much.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's something where, if it's on the community services as well to promote more in ways that are attractive towards seniors, gotta make sure we rely on print media a lot.
Definitely.
And also spreading the word to young, like friends, families, their children or grandchildren, people that will then through word of mouth, bring it to the senior. Be like, hey, I heard about this today. It sounds like something you might be interested in. And then, having that support. And then once they get involved and they have fun and they get into it, then they'll thrive on their own.
Yeah,
But it's that initial part, right?
Yeah, of course. Like anything, it's always challenging, right? Like the first day of school, or just like
Yeah, it really is, right? Even like the telephone calls, it's like it's your first time on. You hear voices, but you have no idea who's who. But you just kind of gotta get into it and enjoy it, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's great, and thank you so much for sharing all of this. I think, like you mentioned, it's so important for us to treat seniors with respect, treat them like adults, and also help them engage with these programs that are there, because like you mentioned, it can be kind of scary to get into it initially, but it seems like there's so many opportunities for them, like just from like healthcare like services, transport services. So that's amazing. Any last pieces of advice or words that you'd like to share with our audience today?
If you're a senior out there that is enjoying some of these services, whether it be any from Brella Community Service Society or anywhere else, share it with your friends and neighbors. It's much more convincing coming from you than it was ever going to be from me, because they'll trust you more, because they'll be like, you're my peer, and if you have experienced this and it's a positive experience for you, then they're more likely to take your word for it. So if you are receiving any kind of service or programming, or you're involved with anything that you are enjoying and it's lifting your day and improving your days, let people know.
Definitely.
That word of mouth is so important to helping us get our programs out and getting word out to other people as well. And all the stuff that I talked about today will be also available on our organization's website. For those that are available to access, is www.brellasociety.ca. And additionally, if anyone has questions about or is interested in the Senior Center Without Walls program, then you can email scww, Senior Center Without Walls, scww at brellasociety.ca, BRELLA, Brella like umbrella without the society.ca, or you can call me at my office extension 604-531-9400, extension 205.
Oh my god, you remembered so many things.
Oh, you get used to it.
You've done this before. He's a champ, guys. No, that's awesome. And we will share all this information on our social media and like below the video as well. But thank you everyone for watching, and thank you so much for being our guest speaker today and helping us bridge the gap between seniors and the next generation. Thank you everyone. Take care.
Yes.